we have to talk about how to do an effective internet query, colloquially known as a Google search, because apparently some of you don't know how to do that and just go on believing and sharing ridiculous headlines in social media posts. My name is Stephanie Edmonds. Welcome to Teaching Liberty. To live free, you have to think free, and that means being a vigilant consumer of the media and critical user of social media. So go ahead, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and let's get into this. Step 1, you have to admit there is a problem, and you are the problem. You read things in the news and you see things on social media and you just believe them and share them. And don't stop and ask yourself, does this make sense? Is there evidence to support this claim? How long ago did this incident take place? Could there possibly have been time for independent verification of these claims? Is there perhaps another perspective that might prove these claims false or at the very least questionable? People just don't think. They just uncritically hit that share button and say, oh my gosh, look at this thing. And they do so with such gusto and confidence when they're probably sharing some report that was leaked by somebody at the State Department who's running an operation. For example, earlier this year, there was a coup in Haiti. And the first headlines that were reported in the U.S. about this event read, Haiti cannibal gang leader is named Barbecue and is now the most powerful man in Haiti after their Prime Minister Ariel Henry fled. Or, Haitian cannibal gangs are eating body parts of their victims as they cook in the fire. Of course, none of the pictures showed this, but so many people just took it as fact and reshared it. And it's just a totally ridiculous headline. A guy named Barbecue is a cannibal, just so happens to be so powerful that he can stage a coup. Like, no, there's some narrative spinning going on here. Just, it doesn't pass a very basic smell test. It's just such an outrageous claim with absolutely no evidence provided for it, and yet these big influencers and media outlets are reposting this, printing stories about it, and doing so uncritically. Even Elon Musk left a comment, an exclamation mark, like, oh my gosh, right? Like not asking like, could this possibly be true? Or is there something else going on here? No, just stirring the pot and getting more uncritical eyes on it. Meanwhile, the real story and historical context of colonization from the French and now the modern domination from the Americans, which has led to an ongoing cycle of poverty and violence, that conversation gets overlooked. And there's no meaningful discussion about U.S. foreign policy in this regard or what Jimmy Cherizier, who really is nicknamed Barbecue, and what he claims to be doing. Because whether you agree or disagree, you at least deserve to know and to have that discussion. Big claims require lots of evidence. Any claim requires evidence, and it is incumbent on you to stop and ask, is there evidence to support this claim? Does this make sense? Is there something else out there, another perspective or idea that if I knew would change my understanding of this claim? Step number 1, admit the problem is you. You need to do better. Now, step number 2, the Google search. My mom always jokes that her clients pay her to sit there and Google the answer to their problems for them. Thankfully, she's my mother, and I didn't have to pay her for this knowledge. I just had to suffer through her being my mother. And you don't have to pay her for this knowledge because I'm about to impart it upon you for free. So make sure you hit that like button and leave a comment down below thanking my mother for her wisdom. Obviously, there are many different search engines out there. For this video, we're going to use Google because it's the most popular, and I think it's good to see that mainstream filter, right? The censorship. I think it's interesting to see what they're pushing and actually use that to refine your search. And we'll get back to that when I show you an example. If there's another search engine that you like to use, let me know in those comments down below. I definitely love to try other options. I do think Google has some really good features, such as time bounding your search, which again, I'll show you in the example that we'll get into. And so if I were to have another search engine, I would definitely want it to have that feature. I also like that Google has the news tab, the image tab. I think that this gives you a lot of options for refining things and actually finding really good information despite the censorship or despite the unknowing elements of their algorithm. Additionally, for almost every search that I do, I also run some searches on the social media platform X. The reason I like this is because instead of doing keyword search for what's in the article, which is a big factor in search engines like Google, X does a keyword search for what somebody posted about the article. And so this is really going to give you a much broader and more interesting look at issues, take you down some rabbit holes, and also get you those articles that a lot of times are censored on the search engines or you just wouldn't find on the search engine, period, because the keywords in that article don't match necessarily the exact topic, but somehow this person in that social media post made the connection. We will go more deeply into all of these things and why I use those platforms as we go through an example. But for now, let's keep going over some of the basics. So we start talking a little bit about how a search engine works. And while most algorithms aren't transparent, we do know that one of the biggest factors is keywords. So what I'm going to need you to stop doing is writing full sentences or questions in your search bar. When you write complete sentences, you have all these other words, is, are, and, the, her, and that can make your search less effective. So I want you to just have those key words in there. Next, you're not just going to do one search. You're going to do a few different searches using different combinations of keywords. None of these searches should take too long. Do a few different keyword combinations, scan over the results, see which ones you think gave you the most effective leads, and then go from there. Additionally, as you're scanning the results, some things might pop out to you, whether there's a word that you're seeing over and over again, or there's a certain article or keyword or organization that you feel like the algorithm is pushing on you. This is that thing that I was talking about, why I like to use Google, because sometimes they show their hand by pushing a certain phrase or a certain company or organization when it wasn't even something you were necessarily considering. So you're going to key in on that, and then perhaps that helps you do a slightly different search and approach the topic from another angle. And we're going to do an example in a second. I just want to touch on one last thing, and that is time bounding your search. So sometimes you are searching a current event, it's happening right now, but you're still going to pull up things maybe from previous events. So what I like to do is I want to see the articles that were just today, right? If it's something that happened in the last 24 hours or maybe just in this last week. And that's going to help really filter and keep your search tight so you're not pulling up old unrelated articles. Or if you're searching something that happened in the past, like recently, I've been doing a lot of research into those first months of the COVID pandemic and the government's response. And so what I do is I time bound my article search between March 1st and April 15th, right? If I'm looking for something in that first month and a half, or if I'm looking for something that happened later in the fall when some schools reopened and some schools didn't, I would do like September 1st, 2020 to November 15th, 2020. And so I'm just going to see what is happening in that time period. And it really, really refines your searches and makes them so much more effective. Okay, so let's do an example, and I want to do something that's pretty political, that's going to have a lot of bias, whether it's coming from the right or the left. And so let's look into what's going on at the US southern border with immigration. Of course, we're not going to type in what is happening at the US border and with immigration, right? There's a lot going on there. We just want to have the keywords. And again, we're going to do a few different combination of those keywords and then get a quick overview and see which ones we think came back with the better results, compare and contrast the results. Maybe there's a good article here and there, or maybe we're going to see some keywords. We're like, let's do a search using this word. So let's go ahead and just get our keyword in here. Oh, I didn't even have it spelled right, but you know what I meant. So let's do US, Mexico, border, immigration, policy, and it's migrants. Let's do one like this, and then let's do one that's like Trump, US border policy, migrants. And then let's do the same thing, except one that's Biden. Let's see how that comes up. Changes to Biden. So let's just scan through these and see what sticks out. Migrant encounters US border hit record high. The migrant American protocols, shifting realities, Title 42. And I like to also look at some of these dates. Some of these are quite old, like April 2022, December 2023. And whereas if you go on the news tab, some of them are a little bit more recent, 6 days ago, but this one's January 2024. This one's 5 days ago. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this search and I want to time bound it. I want to go to all of my results and I want to time bound it to just what's going on in this past month. I want to see what's happened since 3/10/2024 to 4/10/2024. So I'm just getting the most recent. So we're getting here. I wonder what WOLA is. And so when I'm going to open up things I want to see, I right click and I say open in new tab. This way I don't lose this keyword search and these other results I may want to look at, but I can see what's going on here. Okay, so this is an advocacy organization. It looks like they put up a weekly report. They have some numbers here. So this could be a decent source that's going to give you some actual numbers and not just narratives that we can check out. So I'm going to leave that open. All right, here we're talking about to a border patrol. 5 ways Texas is challenging Biden on immigration. Migrant border crossings dip in March. Court action in Texas. All right, so getting some overviews here. Let's see when we have the Trump in the headlines. What spin is this going to give it? Trump bemoans lack of immigrants from majority white countries. All right, so they're trying to definitely put some racial spin on there. This is something that I'd want to look into and say, like, okay, what did Trump really say? Did he really say that? Are they spinning what he said? In Trump-like lockdown, Biden issues border executive order. Okay, this is new. This is big. So I'd be interested and curious to see what this is, right? Because this one is saying it's criticizing Trump, but then here Biden is doing the same policy as Trump when he was in office. Taking a page from Trump playbook, Biden weighs order to bar asylum seekers. All right, so some interesting new stuff coming up here. Okay, comparing and contrasting Trump and Biden's policy. That could be an interesting article. So we're not fact checking any specific article or post we saw on social media. I'm just trying to take a contentious and political issue and show you how I would do a Google search on it. Vary my search terms, use the time-bound feature, so I'm just getting the most recent articles. I could also look and see, okay, what were people saying about the border at this time last year or during the Obama administration, right? And just quickly be able to compare and contrast how the media is spinning the narrative now versus before, how they treat this person versus that person. And so you can very quickly start to evaluate how this narrative is being spun, what the different incentives to spin it as such are, and be a critical consumer and sharer, right? Because we pass this information on to our friends. Like, I hope you'll share this video with your friends. And we should be doing so in a manner that's responsible, right? We can only get so mad at the fact checkers and the misinformation czars when we ourselves are not employing a critical eye to our media consumption and social media use. I do want to go over that same search on X and show you just how different and interesting the results can be over there. And of course, I'll often go back and forth between these two. If I find something interesting on X, I'll then do a Google search with it, find something over there and say, oh, let me try this now in X. So let's head over to X and try this out. So on X, I might search something like third party candidates 2024. I also might try it as like third with this way, with the number, because a lot of people limit their characters and might not pull it up if you type it all out. So we're getting the only polls that matter have all third-party candidates, and Trump leads in all but one. So interesting. We should follow third-party candidates, third, fourth, and fifth. All right, Kennedy 2024. So, oh, here's more about no labels in the third party. Always, the comments are always interesting too. It's highly meaningful to not vote for unfit candidates. It rejects lesser evil voting. 2 unfit viable choices and third-party options won't get elected. And I think then it's interesting also to click up and see like, okay, what was the original post? You can't actually see it in this one. The original post was deleted. Nonetheless, it's interesting to see what people are talking about out there and what issues matter to them and how they're thinking about these issues and not just what's being said by the talking heads in the media and the headlines. Let's see what we got when we typed out third party. So you can see we get a whole different set of videos and posts. For the most part, there's some overlap when we type in third party out all the way. And of course, we could try different combinations and refine our search and do different things. There's also a more advanced search. So you can go in and you can say, you know, you want to make sure it has all of these words, this exact phrase, that it has any of these words. So it doesn't have to have all of the words you typed. It just may have 1 or 2 of them. You can also look from certain accounts. You can filter for only replies or no replies, you know, a certain amount of engagement that you want, the date range you want, which I think is always interesting too. Sometimes if you want to see like, okay, where did a trend start? Or, you know, when was the first time so-and-so talked about this thing? It can be a very useful tool. Again, it doesn't take very long. You can take any issue in the news, any historical topic, any post from social media, and do a quick fact check. Get a survey of the different opinions, takes, perspectives that are out there. Everyone, I mean everyone, even me, has a narrative to spin, And it is your responsibility to break through it and think for yourself. Have the discernment to know, okay, this thing, that's accurate. This thing, not so much. Or, this person, they are really good on this issue or topic, but not so much on this other one over here. And just because they don't have a great take on that thing over here doesn't mean they can't have a good take on something else. You have to have the discernment to know, when is CNN publishing fake news and when are they publishing something that is actually good reporting. It is my sincerest hope that you have found this information valuable and you will help me spread it around the world to other beautiful people so we can have a world full of responsible news media readers and social media users. Thank you, and until next time, think free, live free, and give all the glory to God.